Welcome to Forging the Falcons. I think was the name that we kind of got. We asked for some feedback from y'all, and we got a lot of comments that said we like Forging the Falcons. Okay, I'm good with Forging the Falcons. I think Nick is on the beach. He's trying to adjust the sunlight in his eyes.
Yeah, look really bright.
Nick is in Seattle. My name is Scott Kennedy. I'll be your host along with Nick Kendall. As always, we're here live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I am in Atlanta. Nick is in Seattle. We are both kind of general manager type nerds that enjoy the process of scouting, development, draft, free agency, all that kind of stuff. So while we talk Falcons, we do talk a lot of NFL draft and other teams. And Nick, one of the teams I wanted to talk about specifically today and the impact, especially on the Falcons and the NFC South, is the New Orleans Saints. It seems like there were rumors every year, and I guess, if you float a rumor every year, eventually that someone's going to be gone. Eventually it will come true, but I'm not sure I saw the day coming just yet where Sean Payton was going to step away from the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, pretty crazy. One of the best coaches in the NFL, considered one of the best offensive minds in the game, is stepping away from the Saints, and the Saints look like they could be down bad rather quickly here. Losing Sean Payton, getting a late start, I guess, in the coaching search as well compared to these other teams. And what is it, 73 million negative in the red this upcoming season, and going over their cap. There's not a lot of contracts where it's easy cutting. The only one where they get a big kickback is the Bradley Roby deal, 9 million savings, 3 million dead cap. But still, I don't even know what they're going to do. They're going to have to rework a lot of these contracts and kick them back, but it's rough.
They will. They'll have to rework a lot of them. The thing for them that, yeah, they're in the hole big, but at least a lot of their players are still good.
Yeah,
when they're contributing, it's not like having an underperformer. Now, I'm not sure how good Marshawn Lattimore was. He's got the 40 million dead cap hit this past season, but if Michael Thomas can come back healthy, that's almost like a new signing. His ankle problems were so bad, and I don't know how well he got along. I think he put out a decent message to Sean Payton, but he had some problems with trust issues with the Saints last year about, I'm hurt. And, why didn't you get this done earlier? I'm like, well, because I played through the year. I played through the year hurt, and I got it done in January. You knew this was going to take, 2 surgeries. He got it done in January after he played the season hurt. Then he got his second procedure done over in the summer, late spring, summer. And they had kind of a Twitter spat about it. Cam Jordan, he's a $22 million cap hit. He's still pretty darn good.
I'd take him.
Yeah, he's still pretty good. So, at least a lot of these guys that are really high are still, Alvin Kamara are still producing at a fairly top level. But you're a young dude. You might not really understand just how good Sean Payton was for this franchise.
I remember the coming of age.
Falcons came into the league together in the 60s. The Saints went 20 years before they had a winning season. 20 years.
The Aints, right?
They were the Aints for a reason. That they were the Aints for a reason. Like, as bad as the Falcons were, Atlanta fans could always count on beating the Saints. It was kind of nice not to be, the worst. And I've always said the Saints-Falcons rivalry is one of the best rivalries in the NFL for passion amongst the fans. Just nobody knew it because these teams were battling, instead of battling for first, they were battling not to be last, which sometimes can be the most vicious battles and rivalries there are. Look at socioeconomically, where are the most violent battles?
It got real.
At the bottom of the ladder, not at the top. He was 21-9 against Atlanta. He never won fewer than 7 games. Not once did he win fewer than 7 games. And it took them 12 years to win 7 games when the franchise was first put out there. Peyton won 10 or more games with the Saints 9 times. I've seen that, that meme going around from Ferris Bueller with Mrs. Bueller saying 9 times because that's how many times Joe Burrow was sacked. Well, Peyton won 10 or more 9 times. Okay, well, big deal. They only won 10 games or more 4 times in 40 years before Sean Payton, 39, for those of y'all, counting at home. This guy was a godsend to the New Orleans Saints.
Yep. He was an incredible offensive mind. Came there with the advent of Drew Brees coming there from the Chargers and the draft pick of Reggie Bush. I remember all the hype and hoopla surrounding Reggie Bush going to the Superdome following Katrina. And it was really Sean Payton and Drew Brees that really corrected the ship there and got that Saints team not back on track, because they were not on any track, but on a course, I guess, for being a great team. And it's NFC South is about to be really weird. There's a lot of instability, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. You have to have a good team still. Just because the opportunity is there doesn't mean you have the team to take advantage of it. But like you said, the Saints is still a good team, but how are they going to get better? What are they going to do at the quarterback position? Because obviously Ian Book, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian is not good enough to get it done, period. End of story.
And I guess that's going to be the question, because they've put a ton of money into Taysom Hill as if they believe he is good enough to get it done.
Man, it's who was it? There was a player yesterday. Oh, it was Eli Apple. Going on a rampage on Twitter, which Eli Apple's kind of there was maturity questions coming out of Ohio State. He's kind of answered those ones, but he was just clowning Taysom Hill, saying a glorified special teamer, and they're paying him all this money. That team's a joke, and what they're doing is a joke with Taysom Hill, and because he was with the Saints for a while and not very good with the Saints either. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. You did mention they have a bunch of good players. You didn't even like Omowarie. There's a defensive tackle they have that's a really good run stuffer. Demario Davis has been great for them. Marcus Williams is a good safety for them. I think that Marshawn Lattimore was a good move by them. He had the hamstring injury 2 years ago where his play was that, but like a lot of their defensive structure with Dennis Allen is dependent on Marshawn Lattimore being okay, you take care of this side of the field. We'll figure out everything else elsewhere. And he's good at that. They also have a lot of investments on the offensive line. Ryan Ramczyk, Teron Armstead, Andreas Pete. So there's just not many avenues for this team to get better and get under the cap that I can see going over the contract. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think they almost have to go rookie quarterback route to go cheap there and get somebody that's automatically comes here in that regard. Picking down at the middle end of the first round ish. That's an area where I feel comfortable for the first quarterback to come off the board. One will come off earlier, but that's about the range for these guys. I think they'd start coming off. So I'd be okay with that if I was them. And I don't know. Maybe this is a team that Sean Payton stepping away for a year. They're going to get their books right or better in a way. And he comes back for 2023, 2024 when, you don't put the bad years on my ledger. I don't get counted for the 3 and 14 year, but I get to come back when things are starting to get a little bit better again. And we're springboarded forward. Dennis Allen, thank you for stepping in for a second. We love you.
Yeah, I don't want that guy to come back then. If that's
Yeah.
I don't think you get to that level if you're not a competitor like that, if you're not willing to battle and go down with the ship, so to speak. I think he's probably done with the Saints. I don't know. I think he's done with the Saints. I start looking, I'm like, all right, well, 2022 we've seen, but 2023 is when I start thinking that, the Atlanta Falcons can start really taking some money and putting it into this team. And I look at Spot Rack and the available cap money, it's over $100 million. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Then I look at everybody else. They're all over $100 million because, the contracts are the big contracts are all pretty much coming off. They're front-loaded contracts. Having $100 million of available cap space in 2023 puts them 18th. But still, when you get used to scrounging for every single penny and it really forces you to do your homework and do the research on players and do the scouting and know where to find bargains and how to do that, theoretically, it makes you better. It makes you better at being able to, when you can take it step up just a bit, another level, and I can start looking, I can still try and get value, but I can get another level of player. You should be better at what you do. So, looking at the Falcons, it's like, okay, let's look across the NFC South. The Saints didn't make the playoffs this year. They're in a world of hurt in the cap situation. They've got questions at quarterback. They're not someone you think of as an immediate NFC contender. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yeah. If Tom Brady retires, there's a big hole there. I don't think he's going to retire. I'm a cynic. I'm a lifelong Atlanta sports fan. Sean Paytons of the world never leave. Tom Brady's of the world play forever.
They get younger.
So,
Button.
I don't expect him to go. So they're still going to be really good. And the Panthers are a train wreck.
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers are a train wreck right now. So if there was ever a time to try and build a Falcons team, now's it. Now's a good time to be in the NFC South.
I will push back a little bit as far as the Panthers being a total train wreck. They have really incompetent quarterback, but it's one more year of incompetent quarterback play for sure after this one. But I like a lot of their defensive pieces. I think they have a lot of building blocks on the defense that can't be said for some of these other teams in the NFC South. Brown is really good, obviously, in the defensive line. I really like Shaq Thompson, Jeremy Chin. They have 2 top 10 picks at cornerback.
Derek Brown in the middle.
Yep, and Brian Burns has been one of the better pass rushers from that class as well, right behind Nick Bosa. Thank you, Raiders, for taking Clellan Ferrell at 4 instead of Brian Burns. So they have to get the offensive line right there, and they have to figure out the quarterback position too. And I think Rule is in over his head. But I do think they have at least a lot of building block pieces on the defense where maybe that's a team that 2 years from now, and most of them are pretty young too. I think maybe 2 years from now, you could see a pretty quick turnaround there for that team. But quarterback, head coach, offensive line, all being bottom 10, bottom 5 in the NFL for the Panthers. Good luck next year.
Yeah, and that's where it feels, train wreck might not be the right, but I feel like we got the captain on the old Exxon Valdez out there. They don't have a very good engineer of the train. I don't really feel that great about their head coach. I know the Panthers don't. They don't feel good, but there are rumors that they could swap places. Matt Rule would be interested in the Michigan job if Jim Harbaugh were to leave Michigan. And I read through some of the comments. They're like, please, we'll hate to see you go, but bye. Michigan, you'd be awesome. He's the best. Take him. We'd really hate to see it. Again, the quarterback position it's in. I mean, there's worse positions to be in than Sam Darnold, but it's not good. And you couple that with the putting way too much faith in Joe Brady, who's playing down there on house money with LSU for 1 year with Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. You and I would have been the hottest names in the coaching ranks if we were the offensive coordinator of that team. Call that good recruiting. That's what college football is all about. But the Falcons. No, let's go. We're in about 15 minutes here. I want to say some hi to some folks since we jumped right in here. And Ray, good morning. We missed you last week. I was like, where was Ray? I missed Ray on Facebook last week. So hopefully we got everything right and didn't screw it up too bad. And you missed us because you were busy doing something a little more fun. But what could be more fun than hanging out with us in the morning? Luke, good morning. Clee, good morning. CC coming in, saying good morning as well. Ethan, the DWI guys over in England, welcome and good morning. I think I said EJ and Peter speaking. We're truly international. This is an international show. We got England, we got Cambodia. Dave coming in. Good morning, Dave, one of our very common Falcons fans. And Kenneth Booker coming in, KB82. So good morning, y'all. Good morning. And as people start coming in, we'll hit the questions. And if you're watching after the fact, hop into the YouTube, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy and leave me responses there. I don't see them quite as easily on Facebook. YouTube makes that a little bit easier for me. So that's hit them after the fact. I'm all over the comments after the fact. So make sure you hit those.
And Clee giving us some good insight here. Saints can restructure base salaries to the following players: Lattimore, Hill, Ramczyk, Kamara, Thomas, Jordan, Pete to save $88 million. Again, those are contracts. I'm sure that there are restructure abilities there. Haven't dug into every single contract of them, but none of them were obvious cut move-ons besides Roby to save cash. But all of that, you say they can restructure those for sure, but that's just paying on a credit card because those contracts are going to keep coming on. And this is the reason the Saints are $74 million negative is because they keep restructuring these contracts and put them out. So personally, I am a believer in taking your medicine and getting it right for one season, saying, hey guys, we've had a good run here. We need to use a season to kind of correct the books, so to speak, and we're going to still compete, but we're not going to. It's more about getting ourselves correct for the future to give ourselves flexibility than anything. I think the Falcons should do that next season. I think the Saints would be smart to do that next season. Also because the 2023 class looks pretty incredible. If there's any year to be like, oh, we'll step back for a year, I think it'd be this upcoming season because I really think that 2023 draft class looks pretty darn special at this point.
And I started thinking, at best, you're just getting it back to level. So going back to Clee's comment, if you can save almost $88 million, okay, so you can get plus 10, that's your draft class. That's it. So you're not able to address any of the other holes, including the ones that are already on your team. You probably only got 30 guys under contract. So that hampers your ability to improve your team, even if you are able to just not have to go backwards. You go backwards through attrition normally. So it's a bad situation for them for sure. Going through Michael Robertson coming in saying ATL baby. I appreciate you being here, Michael. Welcome. Kevin coming in as well. Kevin asked a question: would it be too early to find a Matt Ryan replacement? Maybe Malik Willis, Mike Vick 2.0. Ha ha. I moved your haha around because that's where I put the Mike Vick 2.0. Malik Willis is a very talented kid. He's got a good arm. He can run. The closest thing that we may ever see again to Mike Vick is Lamar Jackson. Malik Willis is a good runner, but when Mike Vick played, he was the fastest player on the field. And that doesn't happen very often. I can only think the other time that's happened is Lamar Jackson. And for all the stick that Vic got for his accuracy and stuff, his arm was electric. He could just flick his wrist and the ball goes 60 yards. He was just amazing. So no, not necessarily the next Mike Vick 2.0, but if I'm looking for, a Matt Ryan replacement for 2023, Malik Willis might be the way to go in 2022. Because I could draft this guy who's got maybe the best arm, maybe the best wheels, all of the talent. If I start, going across my Madden rankings of all these type of things for physical ability, he might be at the very top of that list. But he's played at Liberty, he's played some wonky systems at Auburn and under Hugh Freeze. He could use a year.
Yeah.
Well, what better way to give him a year than under Matt Ryan for a year?
I was just going to say that's a good situation overall. Obviously, he has to pass the character and all the other background checks that you want to have your quarterback because they become the face of the franchise, maybe even the face of the city when you get those guys. So those tools that are obvious apparent with Malik Willis, got to have the accuracy, the processing, etc., to use a top 10 pick on a guy like that. But I agree with you. Matt Ryan, it's a perfect situation there. I think he's pretty close to an Atlanta kid when you've talked about him in the past from that area. And he's 6'2", 225, 230, thick, really good arm talent, can do those broken plays. And there are some plays where, like the Liberty receivers, they just don't got the mitts to catch the heat that Malik Willis is throwing. It's kind of like watching Josh Allen in Wyoming. Not the same. Josh Allen, I think, was more developed his senior year than Malik Willis is right now. But just those guys are not NFL receivers, and they can't hang on to the mustard from a guy like Willis. So it's going to be a big game down here in the Senior Bowl to see if he can hang in the drop back pass game and make those full field reads and how his accuracy looks in the drills. Luckily, you'll get to be there in person to see it with your own eyes rather than the hearsay. So that'll be great. But I think it's not the worst idea in the world for them. I think it was Mel Kiper just recently suggested that the Atlanta Falcons look at somebody like a Malik Willis there, just to have a contingency plan. I think it's it's the same situation as the Broncos, where I think it's a little bit maddening because I look at insert Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, and think, okay, second round graded quarterbacks, it's fine. You're picking at 8, 9 Broncos. Okay, if you do it, I understand the shot. But then you put it in the juxtaposition to last year, where you had, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. I'm going to even put Trevor Lawrence in a box. Mac Jones. Those guys, they're not even close as far as the caliber prospects, in my opinion. Doesn't mean they'll be worse or better in the NFL, but as prospects, that's what we go off of. It's what we can go off of, and then, wash your hands from there and hope for the best. I just don't think any of them are close to last year's crop. So it's kind of hard for me to say, like, oh, I can take a guy this year when last year I had better options available at the most important position. It's a tough investment to make. And I'll tell you, if the Broncos do that and Peyton does that, I'm going to be banging a drum saying, what WTF made? Like, I love Patrick Surtain, but you took a worse quarterback at the same spot when you had better options available, in my opinion, last season. I don't know. That's a rough one at the quarterback position specifically.
Yeah, I was on board for taking Justin Fields at 4 last year if you were going to go all in on the rebuild. But if they want to go and get Matt Ryan's successor in this draft, I want him to move back.
Yeah.
I want him to trade down, or could be crazy. Is if Malik Willis is still hanging around 28 or 29, maybe you package your 2 seconds and move up.
Yep.
Couple of comments in here. Ethan coming in saying about Vic. So let's not kid ourselves. His legs were electric. No, Mike Vick's arm was amazing. He wasn't always an effective passer. It was erratic, but he could, literally could just flick his wrist and the ball would take off on a line. If you go back and watch his highlights, you'd think this is the best guy to ever play the game. But he was erratic with his accuracy. And that was what cost him. But it's like saying, Nolan Ryan, I look at, he walked more guys than anybody. He must not have had a great arm. No. Nolan Ryan had an electric arm. He just struggled with command at times. Vic absolutely had an electric arm. He had a top of the line NFL arm. He just couldn't always control it. So that's part of it. And you might be saying that, but as far as quick release and arm strength, he had it. He had it in spades. No doubt about that. And Kevin coming in saying, good morning, guys. And what he says is it's a lot the same way I feel about this is no offense, but we're more than a QB away from competing right now. Correct. But Matt Ryan will be 37 next year. You're gonna need a Matt Ryan replacement. When do you get him? You'd like to have him before you have to have him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have that guy on, maybe play for a year or two under. That's why Justin Fields makes so much sense to me. So if Malik Willis is the guy, having him sit for a year, the problem is this team's going to be so bad next season that I feel bad for Matt Ryan. Part of it's his fault because he's got a $40 million contract, but he's going to get the hell beat out of him next year. But having a quarterback apprentice for a year, maybe even two, under Matt Ryan's not such a bad thing. Instead of, hey, Matt Ryan's, Father Time's catching up with Matt Ryan and playing a year for the Falcons is like dog years. Another year behind that offensive line is like 7 years for most guys. So, yes, we can get into all kinds of needs and stuff if you want to in a little bit of where the Falcons can go to improve this team, because you can really go best player available and it's going to fit a need because you need everything. You need absolutely everything across this roster. Appreciate you, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you very, very much as well. Thank you for that. I do think that it's so hard to find the quarterback that if you see a guy that you're convinced at all can be a dude, swing. I don't care if your roster's ready or not. The Bengals were picking number 1 overall just 2 years ago. That roster was very far away from competing for AFC championships. And here we are 2 years later. They turned that roster around. They kind of sat on their money until one season and completely turned around a defense. Crazy how you can do that, how crazy volatile defense is year by year and how it's based on depth across the board rather than elite talent. I digress. I think that if you have a chance to swing at the guy and you think he can be a guy, do it regardless of where your team is at right now, because it's so hard to find that guy, period. There's, he wants just kick the can down 3 years from now, even if one's standing you in the face. You don't know that. You'll have a chance to do that, especially if you're picking farther down. And if you do that, then maybe your team like the 49ers, where you have to give up 3 first-round picks plus for a guy who's 20 years old and only played Division III football or Division II football at North Dakota State. So even if you're not ready, and maybe that definitely hurts because you're not maximizing the rookie contract window, but the most important thing is getting the right quarterback there that can set yourself up for the next 10, 15 years. So ideally, your team is ready and the best guy falls to you at pick 32 and you can just plug and play and run from there. But you got to take the quarterback when you can get them if you believe in the guy.
Yeah, if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking a quarterback in the first round is not such a bad idea.
No,
taking one of those guys and let him sit behind for the same reason. You might do it this year, but again, what Kevin says is I absolutely agree with. It says I do agree that grooming QB is smart, but don't mortgage to get him. No, I don't want to give up picks. This team has way too many holes to be giving up picks. Way too many. And Chris Walker comes in with a good comment. It says it's hard to mock for Atlanta right now. I think you try and get the best player available, but you fill needs. It's going to be interesting to see Terry signs in free agency. I'm interested in your thoughts on Kenny Pickett. Do you think he's a good fit for the Falcons? I think it's the PFN mock draft simulator. They propose trades to you, and oh my God, does it get addicting to trade down when you're the Atlanta Falcons? You're like, let's see, I can move down 2 spots and pick up another second round pick. Yes, please. Oh, and then I went from 8 to 10, and I can pick up another second-round pick if I go to 14. Yes, please. The next thing I know, I've got 5 second-round picks, and I trade away my way out of the. I've got 5 second-round picks and 5 second-round picks in 2023, and I didn't draft anybody in the first round. Yeah, but you know what? I'd rather have 10 second-round picks in the next 2 years than 1 first-rounder for sure. It becomes real addicting. The good news is, Chris, as you're saying here, is best player and filling needs. The bad news here, the good news for the draft is the Falcons literally have needs everywhere.
Yep.
They need a successor to Matt Ryan. About the only place you don't need right now necessarily is a pass catching tight end. That's it. Everywhere else, you've got a need. You absolutely have a need. Tell me one position, Nick. Just name something, and I'll tell you why we need a need. Safety.
Yeah. Safety's one for sure.
Opposite corner, linebacker, interior line, both sides of the ball, tackle, edge, receiver. 2 of them, please. Yeah. So you can go best player available. And the good news is, in this draft, best player available should be a premium position at 8.
Yeah. Nope. You absolutely should. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious also to see what Fontenot does as far as building this defense that, let's be quite frank, needs a massive injection of talent on it across the board. Dion Jones did not look very good this year. Grady Jarrett's getting close. I think, is he on the wrong side of 30? Still a great player, but
Grady's 28 or 29. So
29.
I think you should extend him, give him a 3-year contract, and let him play that out. You still have to. It's not completely Madden here. It's not completely spreadsheets. You still have to appease the fans to a certain extent. And Grady Jarrett's a really good player, and he's a fan favorite. And if you don't want to just completely alienate all your fans, you make sure that you keep Grady around, or at least get a deal that's so good for him that you can't say no.
Yeah. Just need a massive facelift. I'm curious. Dean Pease is older. Did they bring him out of retirement to come do this gig? Okay, so you need to start thinking about building this defense scheme wise and talent wise to the future as well. I mean, with Dean Pease, the scheme that they ran, pretty soft cover, a lot of cover 2, right? Am I incorrect in saying cover 2 defense?
No, that's right. He didn't necessarily like bringing pressure because they didn't get there, and he didn't have anybody that could cover behind AJ Terrell.
Yeah.
So it's like, what you could feel the frustration midway through the season for him. He's like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I can't bring pressure because we don't have guys that command cover. And they don't get there anyway.
Yep.
I can't drop back in coverage because then the quarterback's got all day because I don't have anybody that can get to the passer. It was a joke. And you mentioned Dion Jones, Nick. That's one of the guys I see. Okay, there's no way Dion's coming back, but how does he? What good does it do to get rid of him?
His contract.
He's got a $25 million dead cap hit on a $20 million on a $20 million cap hit. He's got a $25 million dead cap hit. He costs you more money to cut him. So I don't necessarily get that one. Again, moving for 2023, okay. But this year, if it costs you more to get rid of a guy than actually and have him playing against you than it does to keep him around, how are you going to get rid of that guy?
Tough. Probably have to be some sort of restructure or a new deal that would change the structure of the deal, and then maybe ship him off.
Maybe trade
a trade situation.
They restructured him last year.
Yeah, but one that specifically sends him off to a new team, where that team can take on some of the deal. But we'll see. We got Clee coming in saying for the beanie fund, 93 away if we're carrying over. That's amazing. Scott's gonna wear all the beanies, wearing the Broncos for breakfast one right there. Or got it on right there. Yeah, I need to get myself one of those beanies. I have some really nice fleece lined ones that I like to wear that were needed for those Iowa winters.
So we keep it. My basement's about 63, 64 degrees, and me and my son are always down here. And he's like, "I'm cold." He's never cold. And I'm like, "Here, have a beanie." He wore it for the rest of the day. He's like, "I forgot it was on." I'm like, "They're nice, aren't they? Keep your head nice and snug." I've got half a dozen beanies.
The house that I'm in is built in like the one we're renting right now is probably built in 1920 or something. It's an old house, and it uses oil for the heat. It's a big oil drum buried in the backyard. So we have the house set at a crisp 62 degrees.
Yeah, that was one of those shocks when we moved up to the 100-year-old houses up in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Wait till you have to pay. I'm like, wait a minute, why heating oil? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets expensive. We had a big stone house, and I think we kept it at about 60 as well. And
Yep.
Ethan says, someone talks about funds, I'm here to support. Here's for the beanie fund.
Hey.
Appreciate
Awesome.
Ethan, if you want a beanie, you let me know. I'll send you a Broncos for breakfast beanie. I wore my Chelsea beanie everywhere I went when I was in England, for sure.
Well, there you go.
But
you need maybe
you
a
can
waterproof
represent on the other side of the pond and try and recruit some more Broncos and or Falcons fans, for sure. I'm going to scroll back up. Going back to the topic here, I didn't always. Again, you've heard me say, Nick. You said I don't mind an a-hole. I don't like a hypocrite. Sean Payton kind of walked that line at times. He definitely wasn't overly friendly. And the fact that he was, he was at the Saints, me being here in Atlanta, I didn't particularly appreciate, I didn't really, let me just say it. I didn't like Sean Payton. Didn't like Sean Payton, but there's no debating what the man accomplished. I mean, the Saints, I've said forever, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons are 3 of the 5 worst franchises in NFL history. And they became a perennial playoff team, a powerhouse, an NFC powerhouse under Sean Payton. That is no easy feat at all.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a hard feat to be that bad that consistently and to turn them around like he did. So obviously, Peyton's been a great coach, but it also comes back to if you don't have the quarterback, good freaking luck. I don't care how good your coach is. If you're out there with Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, and the like, you're not going to have a good time. We kind of saw it last year with Brady or Bill Belichick without Brady. That team kind of regressed a bit. It's I'm a full believer that it's a Jimmy's and Joe's league, and it's a quarterback league specifically. And if you have that guy, you have a chance. But if not, we'll see you again next year. Better luck. Good job.
So Jason Peters coming back and talking some old school Falcons. Is Chris Hinton the guy in this year's draft related to Hinton of the Falcons Pro Bowl guard? Yes, he is. That was one of the best moves in Falcons history. I'm pretty sure that pick came down from the Colts when the Falcons sent the number 1 overall, that the Colts used to take Jeff George. I think that's how, and Hinton and Andre Rison both came the other way. And Hinton was awesome, Andre Rison was awesome, and Jeff George was not. So that was one of the best deals in franchise history. And yes, I believe his son plays on the defensive side of the ball. Chris must have stayed around here in Atlanta. A lot of people do when they play for the Falcons or play for the Braves, or even when they don't. This is a good area for folks, and they flock to here. And I think I saw him at GAC, at Greater Atlanta Christian, when I was going to see Davis Mills. So I think he was a freshman on the line when Davis Mills was playing quarterback at GAC. So yeah, good spot on that one, Jason.
Yeah, great spot indeed. There was a good comment here from Chris Walker too. I don't have the ability to click it, but the Falcons need quality depth all around. Wide receiver core is depleted, pass rush non-existent, linebacker depth is an issue. Dion Jones has deteriorated his play. I would argue it's as much scheme issue for Dion Jones, but I digress. Secondary is almost in shambles. Running back is a huge need, and the offensive line needs major help. Yeah, keep going. Let's our pets' heads are falling
Chris,
off. No.
You sound really down about this, and it's worse than you think.
But it can turn around. We've seen it can turn around.
The wide receiver core is depleted. Do you know if the Falcons started tomorrow, their wide receiver room would consist of career. Listen to this, y'all. I know we got some from fans from other teams. 1 catch for 14 yards career. That's what the Falcons have at wide receiver right now. And I think that's Frank Darby. I think he had 1. They signed a tight end from the practice squad, who actually dropped that because his career numbers to the practice squad, his career numbers are 1 catch for -1 yard. So they brought him in. So I have really railed on anybody that has said Falcons need to go wide receiver at number 8. I just cringe. I'm like, that's a luxury you cannot afford when you can't play football. When you cannot play basic football, you cannot waste a number 8 pick on a wide receiver. And if you can't block or tackle, you can't play football. So what good is a wide receiver? They're too far away to try and start picking up those skill position pieces, those luxury things. Offensive line and defensive line are necessities. Skill players, and Nick, I'm exaggerating here to a certain extent, but you know just how bad the offensive and defensive lines. He says, Chris says needs major help. You had two of the worst linemen in the NFL on your team. One of those guys will kill your team. Caleb McGarry at right tackle or Jalen Mayfield. Now, I have hope that Jalen Mayfield can improve. He played the season at 21 years old. He only had 16 starts at Michigan. I have hope for him. Caleb McGarry needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Yeah, in the very least, you have to bring in somebody who is near his skill and let him battle it out and hope for the best with that position, which is a little bit more of a bargain type of way to go fixing that. But you have a lot of holes and not that many resources that are day one fixes at a position like right tackle. Because like almost any rookie you take, that especially one that's not in the first round, is probably going to be similar level play to McGarry out of the gate. Probably. There is actually a good heaping of right tackles in this class. I think will be there day 2. So that should give you a little bit of hope with the extra capital. The Falcons need wide receiver too. I know that gives you a little bit of a chill down your spine because it's neglecting the offensive line and the defense, but they need help there. It's not nearly good. Russell Gage, Zacchaeus,
Olamide Zacchaeus. Yep.
Zacchaeus. Yeah, it's just not good enough. You need some talent there. We got Clee to the T saying you can waste a number 8 pick on the wide receiver if it's Jamar Chase. I would say you could waste it too if it was Jalen Waddle. And honest to God, if Jamison Williams did not get injured, I would say I would not completely dismiss the position, Scott, because you need talent wherever you can get talent. If he's the best player, God help you. Use day 2 then to fortify the defense.
You know how I feel about the best player, though, especially at this level. The best player is subjective. So you might say the best player is Jamison Williams. I might say the best player available is Ikwonu, the offensive tackle.
Oh, I don't think he'll be
there. And someone else might say that it's George Karlaftis. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can't ignore that. For those of y'all who don't know all these names, right off the top of your head, I just named an offensive tackle, an edge rusher, and a wide receiver. I can't ignore my gaping holes at edge and offensive tackle if it's close. If it's even close, I have to address finally the lines of scrimmage. You had 18 sacks last year. The next worst team had 29.
Yeah.
You could draft George Karlaftis. He could come in and get 11 sacks and you'd still be in last place. You cannot take a wide receiver at 8.
I think we're going to go back and forth on this.
Trade back.
Yeah.
Trade back and take 2 of them. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
When I'm doing those mock drafts, I trade back a lot. I take 2 wide receivers. I go get John Mechie. Go get George Pickens. Go get Justin Ross. Yes, get a wide receiver, but God, not at 8. Not at 8.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say there are 6 wide receivers that are vying for wide receiver 1 in this class, and one of them will be taken in the top 15, and a couple will be their pick 40-ish area. I really like Treylon Burks. I think he's just a fun player, and with what you're seeing the 49ers do with Deebo Samuel, Treylon Burks could do that, I believe. He is a freak. I mean, they line him up in running back, tight end, out wide, jet sweep motion. Just a lot of fun. Absolute unit, too. The 2 Ohio State guys, and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, both very good. Chris Olave, a little bit more of a route runner. Garrett Wilson, I believe, a little bit more explosive. Drake London. I really like Drake London there at USC. He's coming off an ankle injury, but I think he still won the whatever the wide receiver award is for college football this last year. A lot of fun. Blitnikoff. Yep. Mm-hmm. God, he's a monster. 6'5", great catch radius. Then you got Jahan Dotson, who's a little bit more of the Tyler Boyd mold, I would say. Going to dominate from the slot, quick twitch. Maybe Deontay Johnson as well, but I think he attacks the ball a little bit better than Deontay Johnson. A little bit more twitchy too. And then Jamison Williams. So there's some options there. One of those guys could be there day 2, but Falcons do need to improve the wide receiver room. I know that's fixing the tires when your engine is on fire of the car, but you need help.
Don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's what I said, Chris ran through a bunch of things. I'm like, it's worse than you think. It really is.
But it can be turned around rather quickly if you get the quarterback position. I mean, again, the Bengals, they had cap space. The Bengals and the Raiders are 2 examples. Their defenses last year, bottom 10 in the league. This year, they're both in the, Raiders got crapped on because they live in cover 3 versus the Chiefs and then give up 50 points. But the defensive line, that whole defense is pretty much made up of short-term contracts that they brought in veterans. Turned it around pretty quickly, going from dire to average. Bengals went from dire to above average just with free agency, essentially. You have to hit on those contracts like the Trey Henderson and the like, but still, I think you can, especially on defense with the short-term kind of guys with on their second or third contracts, you can turn a defense around quickly. You have to understand that it's volatile. Like those two teams, I would expect regression from both of those defenses next year with how they're built this year.
Roderick Cook comes in on YouTube and says, time for some Falcon honesty. We won't be better next season, no matter the picks. This is a 3-year job and no more stupid contracts, including Matt Ryan. So the Falcons finished 7-10, which was almost a double improvement. They were 7-9 after 16 games, and they were 4-12 the year before. So a nice improvement in wins. However, Nick, there was a stat I know that you like to trot out there about, was this a mirage?
Yeah.
In the one-score games.
Yeah, one-score games historically are volatile, and they tend to be more coin flips in the long run. Now, if you have excellent coaching and great quarterback, you will win in the margins a little bit more than other teams. But over decades, one-score games tend to be pretty fickle and can go either way year to year. The Falcons this year, if you flipped all of their one-score games, they would have had 1 win, I believe, 2 wins. Mm-hmm. 2 wins. So sorry, let's cut that one. 2 wins. And that would be picking number 2 in the draft, number 1 in the draft.
They would have been 2-15
because the strength of schedule.
They were 7-2 in one-score games.
Yep.
And if those are fairly flexible, now I'm not exactly. No one's ever called me an optimist, but the optimist in me says, okay, that was a factor of better coaching and clock management coming down to the wire. That was a better job. That was saying Arthur Smith and Dean Pease did a better job of managing the close games, because pretty much every other measurable statistic for the Falcons got worse. Just about every one, from turnover differential,
point differential.
I think that one. I'd have to double check that one, but I think that I included that one. But point differential, yard differential, all of it, offense, defense, most of it got worse, but they won almost twice as many games. And Roderick, I agree with you. It could be worse. Could be worse next year. Could be until the Falcons are able to get some money back into this team, have some of the draft come. It could be worse next year, and no more contracts like that. You can't hit on everything, but again, I'm looking at the cap hits and dead cap hits, and it's Matt Ryan, $40 million dead cap hit, Jake Matthews, $20 million dead cap hit, Dion Jones, $25 million dead cap hit. Oh, and Julio Jones, $15 million dead cap hit. There's half your salary cap right there in average players right now. I'd say right now that Matt Ryan is at best an average quarterback with the lack of weapons around him. He's a distributor of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with Brady. Once those guys started falling around him, his play dropped rather precipitously. So that's one, especially with the veteran quarterback, they are as good as the guys that they can elevate around them. And
so Roderick, I agree with you. You're looking for talking coming out of this draft, the Falcons will get immediate help. They will get immediate help unless they somehow go wide receiver or quarterback. Those are pretty much the only two positions that aren't going to help them next year. They won't be able to get the wide receiver the ball because Matt Ryan will be on crutches or in a grave, and their and quarterback won't be ready to play. He won't immediately be an upgrade over Matt Ryan, whoever they were to bring in. Everything else, pick a guy. At that 8 spot, I can get a corner, I can get an offensive tackle. The corner is going to be an immediate improvement over Fabian Moreau. If Kyle Hamilton at safety falls, yes, please. He makes everybody around him better too. We had 2 guys at safety that were journeyman free agents, and they were below average. What do you expect for $1 million a pop? You got what you paid for. Offensive tackle, already mentioned Cale McGarry. There's several options that are better than him. So you should be able to get somebody that will improve this team right away. 2 second-round picks. So talk about this, Nick. I come out of this, again, I think you need to have a receiver, at least one receiver in this class. I think you have to get a running back in this class. But coming out of the draft, if the players are there, I want to see tackle, edge, corner with those first 3 picks.
Yeah, what do the Falcons have round 3 as well? I believe top 100 picks are the currency you want, maybe even top 120, but top 100. Do you have round 3 picks as well?
Yeah, let me look them up real quick.
Okay, because that would be a big one for me. I think you do.
I think there's 5 or 6 top 100 picks, honestly.
Well,
So the Falcons pick 8, 43, 58, 74, and 110.
110 is a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, 110 is a
probably.
4th-round pick, but they got 4 of the top 75 picks.
Yep.
I'm okay if any of those picks, 43, 58, 74, is a wide receiver. I'm okay with that one. I really am, but not at 8. And frankly, I'd love to drop back from 8 to 15 and add a couple more numbers into that group.
Yeah. Some 2023 numbers as well, maybe.
Yeah, 2023 and load up because, as we've talked about, this team could be worse next year. And if I want my quarterback of the future, I'll be happy drafting 1 or 2 in 2023. Yep. I will be.
You have to wonder if that's what the Saints are gearing up for, too. Not to put on the tinfoil hat too much, but next year's top 3 is, I would say next year's cornerback class and offensive tackle class does not look as good as this year. That's one position that I think you should hop on if you can. But almost everywhere else, it looks better next year. The edge depth this year is incredible, too. There's no Will Anderson, but there's not many Will Andersons every decade. So,
and Chris, as the Falcons trade Ridley for one of the Eagles' first-round picks, if you would offer me a first-round pick for Ridley before the season, I would have thought hard about taking it. If you get it after this season, wow, I'd be great. Anything above a 3rd rounder for me would just be a bonus. And frankly, the Falcons getting $12 million back onto their cap would be helpful too. And the collective bargaining agreement, we did a show early, Nick, when I said they need to make sure that you can replace somebody that steps away like this. And they did. You can use a non-football injury list, and you don't have to, because Ridley's got an option. He's got an option year to move up to almost $12 million this year, but he didn't vest his 4th year of his contract. So they're not obligated to pay that now, which means you've got flexibility. Now, how big of a spat do you want to get into when you're talking about players' mental health? But I don't think there's anybody out there in the world that would say, you know what, he can play on his 4th-year deal again at $1.5 million, $2 million and take care of his mental health. I think that's fair. I don't need $12 million. Certainly improve my mood, but if I need some help, $2 million will get that done. But yes, I'm hoping that Ridley is healthy and he brings a return for the Falcons. That would be very, very nice to help with this rebuild.
Maybe you can use whatever pick you get from Ridley. Let's say it's a 2 and a 4 in 2023, which sign me up if I was them. That would be, you can use that pick then on a wide receiver. just serendipitous there if you're using the pick you get for Ridley on a wide receiver. But I go into the draft looking at the Falcons and you say what positions you want with the first 3 picks there. You hit on it. This team has so many holes that I don't have any. Obviously, I would love an edge rusher. I would love an offensive tackle. And I would probably love either a defensive back or a wide receiver to give you another option there with those picks. But you need to let the board fall to you, just point blank. And you got to trust your evaluators and the scheme and the coaching to say which guys you want and not be picky. I think you need to go into this draft and just say, I'm going to get good players on this team, period. Mm-hmm. If they play, and obviously you bake in positional value as you should, but you just need to come away with good players and set yourself up with a foundation because you're not any player X or position X away from winning the NFC South, let alone competing for Super Bowls in the NFC. Path's a little bit easier in the NFC than the AFC with the quarterbacks difference in the conferences. But again, draft good players. This is still a team that's probably a year or 2 away, and it's tough because of Matt Ryan and the uncertainty of the quarterback position. But you got to build yourself a stable roster, and you just do not have that right now across the board. And that's why
last year I think I said there were 8 guys that were NFL average or better across the Falcons. 8. That means I can draft 12 guys, and it doesn't matter. Best player available is whoever you think is the best player. He can play. You've got a need in that spot. Yeah, Kevin 7 coming in. I like the rhyme there, Kevin. And this one's for you, Nick. Do you have any idea why Desmond Ridder is not talked about as much? To me, he's the discussion to be the first quarterback off the board. Good arm release, is quick and very mature. Seems like he has a brain, too. So if Desmond Ridder isn't getting talked about, why might that be? What are the holes in his game, Nick?
He's a little bit volatile not only game to game, but like drive to drive. It's kind of I don't want to put this on a kid because I don't want anybody to be too scared. It's a fine, I think, a first round pick at the very end of the first round, Desmond Ridder. I have no issue with that, with the tools he has, the athleticism. But to me, watching him, I get the Carson Wentz experience, where you see a couple throws and the athleticism, the arm talent flash on an opposite hash mark throw, and you're like, okay, I can buy into the tools. There's something here. And the next play, he's staring down one guy and he turfs it when there's no pressure on him because the mechanics are wonky and the release is weird. It's a roller coaster in terms of ball placement and process. Now, I don't think he makes many bad decisions, but still, that's a big one. I also think it's partially the media right now. A lot of people's first exposure or the heaviest weighing exposure to Desmond Ridder was that Alabama game where they were just simply outmatched and he had 4 balls batted at the line of scrimmage, and Will Anderson assaulted him snap by snap. Just unbelievable. Will Anderson's unbelievable.
Nick, I've said for years that whoever insert name here is not the first, nor will he be the last quarterback to look bad against an Alabama defense.
Yeah. Yep. So, but it's it's just the erratic nature of his play, snap to snap, even snap to snap, drive to drive, game to game. Also the fact that he didn't take monumental steps forward this season. There's a little bit of exposure fatigue. Everybody's like, oh, could he be the quarterback 1 coming into this year? Well, now we got the flashy Matt Corral surging and Kenny Pickett surging, who have not been broken down as much as Desmond Ridder. I think that's a lot of human nature there as far as the evaluation. That's the reason he's not being talked about as much. Also, I think it's partially because this class is, simply put, not very good at the top. You see some people say Desmond Ridder's a round 4 player. Some people say Desmond Ridder's a quarterback worthy of being quarterback 1 in this class. There was no argument last year if Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields belonged to the first round. So listen to yourself, think about it overall, what that's saying about this class in perspective to the year-to-year evaluation of what these guys are. Doesn't mean they're going to fail, but they're just, every single one of these quarterbacks has warts. And one of these guys, Rick Spielman, was on Moving the Sticks podcast last week, and he said one of these top 6 quarterbacks is going to hit. But Lord help us identifying which one it's going to be, because it's tough.
Yeah, I think Falcons fans, if you play on the PFN mock draft simulator, they don't like Desmond Ridder at all. So he falls to the 3rd and 4th round every time. I grab him. Absolutely. Yeah. I grab him. Again, you could use a quarterback of the future. You could use a guy with some talent. We know, Felipe Franks isn't it. I said before the draft last year that he probably shouldn't go drafted. He didn't. Josh Rosen, I think, will now be off of his rookie contract finally, so he'll be a free agent, and he's not coming back to anybody for over $1 million. So yeah, I'm a quarterback. If there's one of those guys that falls into the 3rd, nab him. Absolutely.
Yep. And also, this is something about we'll get to Ethan here in a second. We've got to get to Ethan, and I got to start getting out of here pretty soon. Having too much fun talking draft. This is our time of year. We didn't even talk Senior Bowl. Scott, you'll be down there next week. We got to hash out the details of the schedule, but I think that and this is, hello guys, everybody prick up. This is Drew Lock positive propaganda coming from me. This year we had 50 quarterbacks log at least 100 snaps. 50. These guys are being used as runners more than they were the last decade. There's an extra game now. You don't have the preseason and the practice where you're seeing some more of these, not the serious injuries, but these soft tissue injuries. You're going at some point in your season, you're probably going to rely on your backup quarterback. And to make an investment in there, I don't think is the worst case scenario, especially if that guy has tools, he's cost controlled, and has some projectable upside. So Desmond Ridder in the 2nd or 3rd round, even if he just ends up being a backup quarterback, it's not ideal with that investment, but even if he just ends up being a backup quarterback, I think that's good process overall. And you'll take good process every time, because eventually it's going to lead you to more good results than bad. But I digress. We'll get to Ethan here. Nice hat, Nick. Thank you very much. Didn't comment on my sweatshirt. It's your favorite. It's the there you go. Atlanta Braves champion. There you go. It's kind of folded over a little bit. I can't see the logo at the bottom. There you go. Yep. There you go. Congrats to you guys.
Braves, that's awesome. World Series champion. And you were right earlier. I don't like wearing hats on camera. As soon as the camera goes off, the beanie goes on.
Yep. I mean, I'm at the age right now, and I don't think my sister's fiance will ever see this, but he's lost all his hair. We went to high school together, and he's lost all his hair, and it's unfortunate because he had a nice, mop head for a bit. So if you got it with your hair, if you got it, flaunt it, gentlemen. That goes for all of you. I'm wearing the hat right now because I got to rep the brand, but also because I haven't showered or done anything with my hair yet.
I get up 3 hours earlier than you,
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons. I've got time to shower and get ready. Nick rolls out of bed and he's ready to go.
I got to make the coffee first. But also, Ethan continued on saying, I'd just like to give you grief, Scott. Joining these discussions, I feel like Atlanta is my sister team now. I used to love playing with Atlanta on Madden growing up because I thought the black and red jerseys were sick. And by God, talked about him earlier, Michael Vick. Who didn't want to play with Michael Vick on Madden? So I enjoyed the
there was a year where Michael
Falcons
Vick was a cheat code. It was like basically all the comments were they ruined this game because they made Vick just too overpowered. But
it was the year that he was on the cover.
In a game like that, I always played speed because guys don't necessarily break tackles very much. You'd always have, whether you're playing FIFA or you could have a crap striker, as long as he was fast, you're going to win. You can't dribble around anybody anyway. And Vic could basically run around in that game for 30 seconds before he just ran for a touchdown.
God, he'd be fun in today's NFL.
Vic was pretty special of an athlete. It's a shame that his personal decisions cut short his career like that.
It's too bad he's not playing right now. Because can you imagine the 10 personnel are putting him in the Brian Dabble offense with all the options they have and running quarterback power and stuff with empty sets, and he'd be so freaking fun in today's NFL. God.
He was pretty fun. I was thankful to Vic because again, we were talking about the Saints franchise. Well, the Falcons, I said, were only maybe this much farther ahead. Vic made it cool to be a Falcons fan for the first time in my life. So I was thankful to that. You'd see people around the country wearing, Falcons jerseys, and that was all Michael Vick. He was good for the Falcons, even if it went sideways on him. But I think I think we're about to get out of here. Unless there's anything on your mind before we get out of here. Here's Mr. Scary coming in real quick. So, who would you guys like to see as the next Broncos head coach? Be interesting. Has there been any indication of what the Saints are going to try and do now, promote from within or anything like that? Or, because now there's another open job.
It sounds like promoting from within. Dennis Allen, former head coach experience, interim head coach, knows the team, and has got a really good defense there. That's honestly been the identity of this team the last 2 seasons. So could sound like it could be Dennis Allen being promoted there for them, but who knows? It could change. And the Saints still own the rights to Sean Payton regardless. So if he comes back, he wants to go somewhere else, that other team would have to trade for him, or he comes back to the Saints. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but it will be interesting.
Yeah, so for the Broncos, I'd like to see it be Hackett. I would. I kind of want to see Broncos fans get what they want. And I'm not saying that, get what you deserve. No, I mean, you want to go in offensively. You want, these are our teams. I say all the time when people start talking about players and coaches and loyalty, this, loyalty, that. No, these are jobs. They're NFL coaches. They're NFL players. These are jobs. They'll be in there. Some of them will end up being Broncos for life or Falcons for life. Mr. Falcon, Jesse Tuggle. I don't have a question, but most of them they're in and out 3 or 4 years and they're coaching or playing for somebody else. We'll be here forever, so it matters to us. So I do want to see Broncos fans get what they want. I want to see them, even if it doesn't work out. I'd like it to be Nathaniel Hackett, offensive coordinator, Green Bay Packers, and totally change that culture around and get Broncos fans excited about 2022.
Yep, absolutely. Hopefully he'll get it right. It's hard if you don't have a quarterback, but head coach will go a nice way, a nice long way. And we got Roderick Cook coming in here. Cook saying, good show, guys. Nice to hear some realistic takes. Yeah, that's Roderick. Honestly, that's really a nice thing to say because there are some shows out there or whatnot that pretty high end on the emotional spectrum. The hot takes here or there. I like to keep it simmering. I want to put it on a low simmer so that way we can have good level-headed takes that are well thought out and not too emotionally tied.
And then in Saints Super Bowl 2 or SB2 coming in says, get rid of Teddy and let me cursed.
Already cursed.
Well, he's a free agent. So if you don't re-sign him, is it just as bad? Is it just as bad if you don't bring him back? So they're not cutting him or trading him. He was just on a 1-year deal. But I'm a big fan of Teddy the person. I think he's definitely got his limitations as a quarterback. I wouldn't be opposed if the Falcons ripped the Band-Aid off and moved Matt Ryan on and took their medicine on the salary cap this year if they brought in a guy like Teddy to be the quarterback for a year. I'd be scared for his life. because he's taken just some god-awful injuries in his career. I'd be scared for Teddy, but Teddy Bridgewater as an Atlanta Falcons coach is a holdover for 1 year quarterback. For a holdover quarterback for 1 year wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No, not at all. And he comes back in saying Vikings, Panthers, Saints thought the grass was greener and it wasn't. You never know. I'm a Saints fan. I agree with you, but you should always be chasing greatness at the quarterback position. And Teddy Bridgewater does not have that in him, in my opinion. He just does not have the tools. There's a pretty good offense around him this year. You can say what you will about the Shermer system, but he's competent. You do not want the first word you say about your quarterback to be competent. So chase greatness at the quarterback position. We saw it with the Chiefs with Alex Smith and Mahomes. We're seeing it with the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Chase greatness.
Sam Darnold is somehow confused and fooled more what I would like to think are smart people than Houdini. Why? I don't get it. You know, the Sam Darnold thing is like, okay, you traded a second round pick. That wasn't bad. But then to pick up his option, you know, the Panthers, you're right back in it at the quarterback position. You have to get a quarterback. And I hope they take Nathaniel Hackett at 6. I hope they leave some of these other position players on the board and they go quarterback at 6. I hope they do. I think that would be great for the teams drafting behind the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. Don't disagree. Well, I got to get on out of here. It's 8:00 my time, and I need to walk the dog and get on into work. But Scott, thanks for having me. In a week from now, we're going to have to sit down. I don't know exactly what your schedule is, but how it works and everything and what you need from me. But I'm here to help.
So next week, y'all, appreciate you being here, and I'm going to let Nick go. Next week, I will be going down to the Senior Bowl down in Mobile in the afternoon. So we'll do some live shows probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from Mobile, doing a preview probably Tuesday, and then doing some reviews. And then I probably had 50 highlight videos on this channel from the Senior Bowl. No kidding. I think it was between 45 and 50 of the guys to cut up, and we'll do more on it this year. Bigger audience, more interaction where we can answer questions and do that kind of stuff. But I'm really looking forward to it, and appreciate y'all being here. Nick, any last words?
Use kindness. Have a great day. Enjoy everything. Let's go Bengals. You know, I'm really tired of the Chiefs and the 4th AFC championship they've hosted.
There we go. That's the last words. So who are your picks? Who are your picks for this weekend?
Oh, Chiefs are going to destroy them. Chiefs are going to win by at least 14. I don't think it's going to be close at all. We saw the two best teams in football play last week in the Bills and the Chiefs, and I just don't see any way, especially with how the Chiefs lost to the Bengals last time. I think the Chiefs are going to step on the throat and just absolutely destroy them. Yeah. The NFC game is more interesting. I think we saw the 49ers make that a heroic comeback week 18. Still weird to say, tripping me up. But I think, and I really, why is DeMeco Ryan not getting more interviews? Because that 49ers defense
too soon.
Playing too soon. I mean, they're playing inspired ball. If Jared Mayo can get 3 interviews this cycle, DeMeco Ryan should get an interview.
Maybe next year.
Yep.
Maybe next year.
Man, especially with the lack of talent they have in the secondary there for the 49ers, they've been impressive. I like
if he was an offensive guy, he'd have one.
Yeah.
Yep. If he was an offensive guy, he'd had one. You have to have a little bit more of a track record on these. Yeah. I think it's Chiefs Rams too. You can't count on Mahomes giving you 3 interceptions the way Tannehill did. For all the talk about the offense and Burrow and stuff, it's a fluke that you gave up 9 sacks and were able to win that game. That's a fluke. And the reason why it was a fluke is because Tannehill was giving you the ball every other series. That's not going to happen under Mahomes. Chiefs win. And I like the Rams. I keep doubting both these teams. I keep doubting the 49ers and the Bengals. And we might have a 1988 rematch. I don't know. But I think it's Chiefs Rams too.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get on out of here. I'll let you get your read and go Bengals. God, I'm so ready for the Chiefs.
That's it. Appreciate you being here, Nick. And thanks everybody for showing up today. And if you've got any comments after the fact, leave them on YouTube. We'll get to them. Until that time, you're subscribed to the channel. You follow us on Twitter. Keep an eye out because we're going to be doing much more content than just our regular Wednesday show on this channel next week as we hit the Senior Bowl. And I've kind of pictured the Senior Bowl as being really the launching point for this channel. We've built it to where it is now, and now we're ready to launch and take off where we're doing stuff more than just once a week. So appreciate y'all. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.